Yes, the tribulation gets cut short. Yeshua said it would. Have you considered all the options to what that could look like? This is Off the Cuff, and I'm Steve from TorahFamily.org. Let's talk about it. Let me start by saying, for those who struggle with the tribulation possibly being cut short to 6 months, a year, or to the 70 literal weeks of Daniel, we'll link our teachings on those biblical possibilities below. And yes, they are biblically possible. After our 2 recent teachings, Resurrection Day and the Prophetic Road Map, we've been requested to give a more detailed timeline. So, here it is. However, the focus here is more on the timeline and not all the included events. I won't be going over every detail. If you want to know more on a specific subject, I'll reference the teachings that go in depth on many of those subjects. And this teaching will be pretty much only slides. Here's the timeline as a whole. We're going to leave it all up and just highlight accordingly. We start off with what I hope we get, some kind of a warning to everything getting ready to start, similar to the 7-day warning Noah received. As you can see here, I sincerely believe we'll see the Ark of the Covenant come out as that warning. Now, whether it comes out as a warning or not, I don't know, but I do believe when it comes out, and yes, I say when, not if, it will be what triggers the sacrificial system to be fully set up again. Regarding the Ark of the Covenant, you can see our teachings, Image of the Beast, and What is the Idol of Jealousy. Next, whether we have a warning or not, this timeline perspective begins with the last 10 days and counting to Shavuot. Remember, Yeshua ascended into heaven on the 40th day to Shavuot, Pentecost. So it's very possible things could pick right back up where he left off, or should I say, when he left off. It's possible these 10 days are the 10 days we see here with the Church of Smyrna in Revelation chapter 2, verse 8, a time of testing and purification, 10 days. Starting off these 10 days will be the sacrificial system being fully set in place again. We believe very firmly the sacrifices starting back up is the Abomination of Desolation. You can see our teaching, the Abomination of Desolation, for more details in understanding how the sacrificial system fits perfectly for this. You can also see our teaching, Beware of the Coming Sacrifices. Then, next we have Jerusalem getting surrounded and invaded as a direct result of the sacrificial system starting back up. I believe it's very possible the modern government of Israel will take over the Temple Mount for the sacrifices, thus Jerusalem getting surrounded and invaded. The first 5 seals go into effect during these 10 days. Remember, as noted in our teaching, as in the days of Noah, the seals were broken the same day Yeshua ascended into heaven in Acts chapter 1. But, as seen here in Revelation 10, the effects of the seals has been delayed from happening. We see the scroll is open. Thus, all the seals are broken. But, verse 6 shows they've been delayed from happening. Please know, the seals are not a part of the actual tribulation. The tribulation begins at the full reign of the Antichrist. However, the seals will be a time of horrible devastation. Thus, Yeshua said we should pray we escape it all. We cover this in our teaching, the prayer of escape. We are to pray we escape all that is about to take place. That includes the seals. The seals set the world situation in place for the Antichrist to come in and rule. I know many hold to the thought that the seals started long ago. And some would say, Steve, 10 days is way too short a time for the first 5 seals. But we can't forget, Yeshua said it will be a time like no other, and it will never happen again. No one would have ever believed the whole world could have been on lockdown back in 2021. Yet it happened. And think of the flood. 40 days wiped out everything. 10 days for chaos and martyrdom to take place isn't out of the realm of possibilities when we compare what we've already seen. This is especially so knowing Yeshua said it will be a time of great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world and never to be equaled again. These 10 days bring in utter devastation and martyrdom for believers around the world. That which will be brought about by the Noahide laws. If you haven't, please see our teaching, Beware of the Noahide laws. In fact, I believe the first seal with the rider on the white horse, seen here in Revelation chapter 6, is directly pointing to the Noahide laws. Why? Because the exact same word for rainbow in Genesis chapter 9 verse 13 of the Greek Septuagint is the exact same word used for the bow the rider on the white horse is holding. Thus, he has no arrows because it's a rainbow that he's holding. Thus, the Noahide laws will be implemented immediately, and so the martyrdom of believers will begin immediately in those 10 days. So if you haven't already, please consider watching our teaching on this subject. Beware of the Noahide laws. Next, we believe the Antichrist will be revealed sometime during these 10 days. Now, we believe he's already on the world stage, but this will be the time he starts taking a prominent role. In all of this, we'll see the beast system put in place. This will most likely go with the financial reset we've been hearing for so long now. But they need the current system to crash for them to bring this into play. Thus, the third seal. Believers who have to go through this time will have to make their choice on who they will serve. They must stand strong in this time and not worship the beast or take his mark. Thus, this is the time when Babylon gets drunk on the blood of the saints, as noted here in Revelation. Next, as crazy as it may sound, I believe an alien deception will come into play within these 10 days, setting up for what we see coming on Shavuot. Next, I believe it's very possible we'll see the two witnesses begin their ministry during these 10 days as well. And lastly, this will be when the false Antichrist stops the sacrifices. And yes, I said the false Antichrist. We cover this in our teaching, the Assyrian. You see, the church has been brought to believe the Antichrist stops the sacrifices. This isn't true. We explain why in our two teachings, Satan's Greatest Masquerade, Part 1 and Part 2. This has been a deception the enemy has brought into the church to deceive the church. It's most likely the false Antichrist will be Islamic. Again, the false Antichrist will be Islamic. This will happen when the armies that surround Jerusalem invade and reclaim the Temple Mount. In doing this, they will bring the sacrifices to an end. Thus, many will view this as a fulfillment of Daniel 9. But it's not. It's a setup to get people to accept the true Antichrist as the Messiah. Please don't fall for this. That being said, at the invasion on Jerusalem, the people of Jerusalem will suffer a great loss. The prophets explain it as a time of much death and destruction to those in Jerusalem and the city itself. Closing out the 10 days, we land on Shavuot. On Shavuot, we see the New Jerusalem coming down, something the world will believe is an alien invasion, possibly even the mothership. And as you can see here, we believe the New Jerusalem is in the form of a huge pyramid. Same height, same width, same depth, with Yeshua as the capstone. We believe Yeshua comes in the New Jerusalem, and the New Jerusalem is what blocks the sun, that which is mentioned in Yeshua's return. It's at this time, on Shavuot, we have the first resurrection. The first resurrection will include those who were protected from the seals and those who had to go through them just the same. Revelation chapter 20 tells us those who rejected the beast system from those first 10 days, like the church of Smyrna, are raised to life at the first resurrection. Now, as a direct result of the resurrection, we have a great earthquake, the earthquake of the sixth seal. Here in Revelation chapter 6, we see the sixth seal. In it, we see the earthquake, the sun going dark, and much more. The sun going dark matches Yeshua's words regarding his coming for his people. But it must also be noted how the kings, the princes, and the generals hid in caves of the mountains. So we see the sixth seal is not the Battle of Armageddon. If it was, these people would be out fighting Yeshua. As it is, they're all hiding. And it's at this time, the resurrection, we have Babylon's destruction. And Babylon is destroyed by the Antichrist, the beast, and the 10 horns. Yahweh puts it into their hearts and then allows the beast to rule in full authority. And so next, we see the Antichrist begin ruling in his full authority. The first act in his rule will be the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, as seen here in Daniel chapter 9. This comes right after Jerusalem had just been destroyed by the armies led by the false Antichrist, who surrounded it. And so we see, with that decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, Shavuot will begin the 70 weeks of Daniel. These first 69 weeks will be the time when the full reign of the Antichrist takes place. The dragon continues pursuing those who hold to the testimony of Yeshua and keep the commandments of Yahweh during this time. The 4 fasts that get turned to feasts will be celebrated under the Antichrist. Though the prophecy will be fulfilled under Yeshua's reign in the millennium, at this time, the Antichrist applies these verses for himself. During these days, the ministry of the 2 witnesses take place. You can see our teaching, The 2 Witnesses, for more on them. That takes us to the end of the 69 weeks, trumpets, where we see the death of the 2 witnesses. Please know, they are not resurrected. They are raised to life like that of Lazarus. Resurrection means raised with a new body. Raised to life simply means brought back to life in your existing body. After that, we come to the Day of Atonement, Armageddon, when the Antichrist and his armies surround Yeshua and his bride at Mount Sinai. We cover this in our teaching, Armageddon and the Parousia, along with the already noted teachings, Satan's Greatest Masquerade, Parts 1 and 2. After this, we come to the start of Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles. This is when Yeshua splits the Mount of Olives and conquers Jerusalem. He comes riding on the white horse, and he is covered in blood. Why is he covered in blood? Because he just defeated the Antichrist and all his armies at the Battle of Armageddon. And now he's entering Jerusalem to clean house. This is where Yeshua brings the sacrifices under the false prophet to an end. Thus, it's Yeshua who brings the sacrifices to an end. Why? Because they are an abomination. He clears out the detestable system to set up the prescribed system for the millennium. Then we have Sukkot, that which will be the 70th week of Daniel. 7 days for the proper altar and priesthood to be anointed and set up. This is prescribed in Exodus chapter 29, verse 35. And we see how this matches exactly with what we see in Daniel 9:24 to anoint the most holy, that being the altar. This is discussed in our teaching, The Destruction of Jerusalem and the 70 weeks of Daniel. After the week of Sukkot, we then have the second Exodus. The messengers who go out, as noted in Isaiah 66, could actually go out on the first day of Sukkot. That will be the day of victory. Thus, he sends them out to gather the survivors in the world. While the survivors are on their journey to Jerusalem, there will be those in the land cleaning up the dead bodies from the war. This is seen in Ezekiel 39, verses 12 and 13. These 7 months, noted for cleaning the dead bodies from the battle, takes us directly to Second Passover. Ironically enough, Second Passover is designated for those who have to miss the first Passover because they've touched a dead body or they're on a long journey during the first Passover, just as we have at this time. Those who survive the tribulation will be on their journey, the second Exodus, and we have those cleaning the dead bodies from the battle. They'll be unclean during the first Passover. Thus, they'll all need the second Passover. This is all covered in our teaching, the second Exodus. Then we have the millennial reign of Yeshua, noted in Revelation chapter 20, and referenced in Isaiah chapter 2 and Micah chapter 4. After the millennium is over, we see Satan is loosed for a short season. We have a teaching on this titled Satan's Little Season. After this short time, the deceived of Satan surround Jerusalem for battle. However, there is no battle. Fire comes down and devours them, keeping the prophecy of Hosea chapter 2 that there will be no more war after the battle of Armageddon. This event is the dividing of the wheat and the tares. I know many hold to the thought that the dividing of the wheat and tares happens after the tribulation. However, that's not true. Please see our teaching titled The Wheat and the Tares. The wheat and the tares are divided at the end of it all. After this, we have the Day of Trumpets, Yom Teruah, which actually means the Day of Shouting. This is the day of the second resurrection, literally the last trump, as noted in 1 Corinthians 15. 3 harvests, 3 resurrections, showing the times of the resurrections for all mankind. All mankind is resurrected and clothed with immortality. As long as there is a dead body anywhere on earth, then death is reigning. Thus, we're told the last enemy to be destroyed is death. And this happens at the last resurrection in the fall. This is the time of the grape harvest and the second wheat harvest, representing the believers who lived in the millennium and then all unbelievers who lived throughout all time. The second wheat harvest are the believers, and the grape harvest represents all unbelievers. After this, we have the Day of Atonement, the Great White Throne Judgment. And finally, we have Sukkot, when Yahweh comes down on earth and dwells with man for all eternity. This comes right after heaven and earth are made new, burned up in fire. Heaven and earth being made new parallels to when Yeshua cleaned up the temple for the millennium. Yahweh is cleaning everything up for the new start, the 8th millennium. 8. New beginnings. Under the new order, Yeshua will be the high priest in the Melchizedek order. We will be his priesthood. This is why there is no temple on earth anymore. If there was a temple, the priesthood of Aaron would be the priests. But there is no temple. Thus, Yeshua is the high priest on earth now, and we serve as his priesthood. I believe this is why we see the 8th day of Sukkot. It represents the 8th millennium that ushers in eternity. Thus, it's to be a day of great rejoicing. Now, to close this teaching out, please notice there is no time allocation from the short season of Satan being loosed through the Great White Throne Judgment. We don't know how long the short season is, and we don't know how long the time of judgment will be. This is important to note as it explains the often misinterpreted verse of Matthew 24, the verse that says, "No one knows about that day or hour, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father." Many attribute this to the next 2 verses regarding Yeshua's return. However, the example Yeshua gives shows Noah did know the day. But Yeshua specifically said no one will know the day. Why would he give an example where someone knew the day of the event when he just said no one will know the day? He wouldn't. Yeshua was specifically discussing the previous verse regarding heaven and earth passing away. No one knows when heaven and earth will pass away. Why? Because there's no time allocation given from Satan's short season through the white throne judgment. Immediately after these events, heaven and earth pass away. But again, these events have no time allocation. Thus, the famous verse that is often taken out of context. Well, that's all I have. Think about it. Pray about it. But more than anything, be a doer of the word and not a hearer only. Until next time, Shalom.